morning, Worcester State. Am I saying that right? Worcester? All right, then I can keep talking. What an honor to be here with you and to join in the chorus celebrating the 2024 graduating class of Worcester State University. A very special hello to President Maloney, Provost Wims, honored alumni, faculty, family, and friends. When I was first invited to speak today, I have to admit I was a bit shocked. That shock turned to a humble honor and immense gratitude after I met with the students and faculty. They spoke of the dedication, the grit, and the determination of this group of graduates. One student shared that these are the most passionate peers she has ever met. A faculty member said it best, that you have formed such a strong community here, and not just here, on a college campus, and not just any college campus, but Worcester State. You see, one of the reasons I was a bit shocked when they reached out to me is that despite the robe and the hat, and standing here on this stage before you today, I didn't actually go to college. When I was just 3 days old, I was adopted into a loving, wonderful family. I grew up with two perfect twin brothers who did everything right, were always on time, always at home on time, and got straight A's and went off to private college. And then there was me. Growing up, the families are laughing because they've got that one too. Growing up in my parents' independent books and record store right outside of Seattle, Washington, we of course didn't own a television. The first time I saw a TV was sneaking out of my room after I'd already been put to bed at my aunt's house. And I hid behind a chair while all of the adults in the room were drinking the grape juice from their fancy glasses. And I snuck downstairs, and I was about 8 or 9 years old, and I hid behind my grandmother's chair. You know, the one that's made out of carpet and it smells really bad. And I had my giant Coke bottle glasses and my bright red hair, and I was about 8 years old, and I stuck my face against that smelly chair, and I looked at the screen, and it was a film, a black and white film of Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. Fred Astaire, named after my service dog. Service dog is named after Fred Astaire. And it was the film Cheek to Cheek. And Ginger Rogers was doing everything Fred Astaire did, better, backwards, and in high heels. And they were ballroom dancing. Yeah, you know the film. And Ginger Rogers was in a silk organza gown and ostrich feathers, and my little jaw hit the floor. I was smitten. I couldn't believe how beautiful she was and how graceful she was. And I somehow managed to sneak back upstairs without my family noticing. And in the true attention span of a child, the next morning at the breakfast table, I put my little fists up and said, I want to be a ballroom dancer when I grow up. And that was that. I danced through elementary, middle, and high school, and then people started talking about this thing called college. Now, to paint a picture of my experience hearing about college, every night at our dinner table, because of my parents' bookstore, were traveling musicians, writers, and artists. They told stories about how they followed their dreams in a VW van and did just fine. And I thought, well, that sounds pretty easy. I gave myself 1 year to make it. My parents were not happy that I didn't go to college, and they couldn't have been more disappointed. They told me, you have to get a job, earn your own money, and get a place to live. And they probably found out that I was a motivational speaker at that point because I said, that's only 3 things. They couldn't have been more disappointed though, but I was determined. I had a dream. I auditioned and auditioned and auditioned, and I finally went pro as a ballroom dancer. I traveled and competed and performed all over the globe in glittering dresses next to top hat and tails dancers, and it was just as exciting as it sounds. So exciting, in fact, I made it all the way to Boston from Seattle to compete further, and I made it to 3rd in the world in my company in dance. After that, I decided to take a day off. Thank you. I walked past the Boston Marathon. I thought, this must be some kind of parade where they're cheering on runners. I had been in Boston already for 5 years, and I had never heard of the Boston Marathon. People that get bronzed and bedazzled and lashes and glitter don't often cross paths with people who sweat in public. For fun. I thought it was a parade, and I asked someone nearby, hey, what's going on here? And they said, it's the Boston Marathon. And I said, how far does that go? And they said 26.2 miles. And I said, for a statement necklace and a free banana? That makes no sense at all. But I still had respect for the athletes and their determination and their grit. So I decided to stay and watch. And just as I walked away from the finish line about 3 blocks, I heard a loud blast behind me. The ground shook. I saw black smoke everywhere, and I knew we were under attack. I saw policemen with their guns drawn and runners now running in all directions. I placed both of my hands over my ears and immediately went down. I later learned, as I watched surveillance footage because of the trial, that I had been walking next to a terrorist for 1.5 blocks when he dropped the backpack at my 2 feet and walked away and detonated a bomb. I opened my eyes and all I saw was gray. I felt like there was a building on top of me, but there wasn't. I lifted my right leg and saw a giant gash and blood everywhere. And I tried to lift my left leg, and I tried to lift my left leg, and I tried again, and I realized I was, but my leg was gone. I thought 2 things. Number 1, there goes Ginger. And 2, there is no way that my family and friends can make it in time to say goodbye. How selfish of me for going after this one very, very vain dream. My life was saved many times that day. First, by an off-duty doctor who applied 2 tourniquets on my legs, and second, by my Superman surgeon. The coming days were long and frightening. I did an interview with Anderson Cooper, who asked if I'd ever dance again. Somewhere deep inside me, I said yes. I think I can, or at least I think I can try. That felt so good to say my dream out loud that I then said, I think I want to also run the Boston Marathon as a thank you to all of Boston who's poured so much Boston strong strength into all of us survivors. As my dad is waving his arms in the background saying, you don't run, you forged notes in high school to get out of running the obligatory mile. You would never sweat in public, Adrianne, never. And he was right, but I had a dream. And later that evening, a doctor, not my doctor, came into the room and said, listen, I saw your interview on Anderson Cooper. I've been here 20 years at this hospital, almost 20 years, and I heard you wanted to dance again, and I just wanted to let you know we have to be realistic about people's dreams around here. I've never met an amputee dancer. I just want you to know you shouldn't have hope. Yeah, same. I couldn't believe it. I raised my finger in the air, and it may not have been this one, and I said, if my chances are 1 in a million, I will be that one. And that brings me to a lesson I want to share with you graduates. That brings me to the lesson that I want to share with you, with my finger in the air as well. When someone tells you something can't be done, it is more of a reflection of their limitations and not yours. I'll say it again. When someone tells you something cannot be done, it is more of a reflection of their limitations and not yours. That counts for teachers, professors, me, parents, and your peers. If you believe it can be done, that's all it takes. Weeks later, I was checking out of the hospital with my Superman surgeon. He held my discharge papers in his hand, and he said, Adrianne, I need you to make me 3 promises. And we were both sobbing. I'm sure it goes without saying how close all of us got to our surgeons and our life-saving doctors and nurses and OTs and PTs that put our bodies back together. He and I were so tight, we're still tight. His daughter is becoming a ballroom dancer, and we talk every week. I know, right? He was holding my discharge papers and asked me to make 3 promises. Promise number 1, promise you won't let anyone else take out your stitches. I said, I have trust issues now. I've literally gone to him for a blister. Absolutely, I promise, that's an easy one. And he said, Adrianne, promise number 2. When you dance again, not if, you tell me, whether that's on a stage or in your kitchen, and I will be there to cheer you on. With tears streaming down my face, I said I promise, even though I didn't believe I could. And promise number 3, Adrianne, when you run the Boston Marathon, not if. You tell me, and I will be there to cheer you on, track every step, and be there at the finish line. And I said, I promise, even though I didn't believe I could do it. But this is the lesson I learned, graduates, to believe in the conviction of others, even when you may not believe it yourself. I knew that this was a very smart surgeon that I trusted with my life, that my family trusted with my life. If he believed I could do it, I believed him. And now listen, I don't like making sweeping judgments about everyone in a room. We're getting away from that these days, and I'm happy about it, but I am gonna make this one sweeping judgment. None of us need help doubting ourselves, right? But we sure as heck need help believing in ourselves. And I want you to look around this stadium right now. Your classmates to your left and to your right, your faculty, your family, and your friends, and me. We all believe in you. When you apply for that job, when you take that leap, when you give that presentation, and you begin to doubt your ability, know that we, everyone here right now in this stadium, stand firm in our conviction to say, you can do it. Remember this moment right here, sitting here. You already have what it takes. I went on to not only fulfill promise number 1 of letting him take out my stitches, but promise number 2 of dancing again. And there with my Superman surgeon in the audience. Then it was time for promise number 3, to run the Boston Marathon. I was untrained and naive. In fact, I only ran 10 miles to train. Yeah, that should get a laugh because it was ridiculous. And I thought what anyone would think, well shoot, I could double that and add 6. Forever optimistic, I guess. And there I stood at the start line for the 2016 Boston Marathon. I heard people talk about preparation, hydration, hills, fueling, training runs, and I panicked. I stood there and thought, oh no, oh no. I had the worst imposter syndrome of my life. That is when a friend turned to me and shared the greatest lesson that I want to share with not only the graduates, but everyone in this room right now, including faculty. They turned to me and said, Adrianne, what will get you to the finish line is nothing compared to what got you to the start. I'll say that again. What will get you to the finish line is nothing compared to what got you to the start. So often we look at the monumental task ahead of us, 26.2 miles, going to Worcester State for 4 years and getting your diploma, going to graduate school, getting and starting a family. We look at this monumental task ahead of us, forgetting about all of the things that have already brought us to that start line. It's easy to think of only the long road ahead. You've navigated some of your biggest accomplishments and your most devastating disappointments, not to mention endless deadlines. You've problem solved, failed, and picked yourself back up. You've conquered and fought to stay ahead of your doubts and fears, and here you sit today, at both a finish line and a start line. Relish in it, graduates. You've done it. So as you look ahead, never forget to also look back at this moment and these past 4 years that it took you to get to this finish line. As I stood at that start line for my first marathon, I was intimidated, yes, of course. But I knew I had learned to walk on a foot I could not feel that was underneath me, learned how to navigate New England winter snow and ice. I couldn't feel my foot underneath, whether that was snow or ice, and I learned to dance. I knew my road ahead for the next 26.2 miles would be long, but I also knew I could do it. It just may take a little longer than the runners to my right and the runners to my left. And the gun went off, and I ran for about 0.6 miles. And then I stopped, walked, sat on a curb to rest, hugged every first responder I saw, stopped for a burger and a beer, walked some more, took shots with some of the girls at Wellesley, took a few more shots with some of the boys at BU, took another nap in a medical tent because of said shots with college students. You guys can hold it better than I can. And still, I moved forward. My naivete didn't notice 30,000 runners past me as I came across that famed finish line dead last in the Boston Marathon at a time of 10 hours and 44 minutes. Just minutes, thank you. Just minutes after I finished and crossed that finish line, then President Barack Obama tweeted me and said, "Thank you, Adrianne, for being Boston strong. Terror and bombs can't beat us. We carry on and we finish the race." My Superman surgeon was watching and cheering as I crossed my longest finish line yet, the third and final promise delivered. You see, graduates, the road ahead is uncertain, long, and has many, many turns. You may not feel like you always belong in the communities, classrooms, and boardrooms you find yourselves in. You may also feel judged for being yourself. I felt this way when I advocated for a new division in the Boston Marathon. You see, when I came in dead last, being the ultra-competitive person that I am, I wondered what it would be like to come in first place, maybe break the tape even. I found there are no races for Blade Runners like me, not even in the Paralympics still today, no matter how many times I call them or show up at their offices. They only allow us to run 200 meters, and that's it. People with disabilities are the largest minority in this country, crossing all social, economic, and racial backgrounds. We are the largest population that doesn't vote because we are never talked about in politics and rarely accounted for in everyday conversation. And I didn't like the sound of that at all. I fought hard and finally got a new division for my fellow amputees with limb difference. You know those videos on YouTube where you show someone that just got into Worcester State, or someone's getting a puppy, or kids are going to Disneyland, and you watch the video and you don't even know them, but you're so excited because they're excited? That evening after the press announcement on this new division, I was sent hundreds of videos from people telling their fellow friends with limb difference that they could one day win the Boston Marathon. Remember, graduates, if you don't see yourself in the room you are in, knock those tables over, knock that ceiling down, crash the entire staircase if you must, until you are heard and seen and included. We talk a lot in this country about diversity, and that's a start, I guess. But also remember, diversity is being invited to the dance. Inclusion is being asked to dance. In life, you may be knocked down more than once. I know this. And you graduates, you already know this. You were raised in schools with shootings and drills, terror attacks and wars in the news, closures, and have already been robbed of your high school proms and graduations due to COVID. You know loss. You know it very well. You know disappointment very well. You know heartache, and you know what it's like to be frightened of the future, perhaps more than any graduating class in this nation's history. So the question is, how do we take all of that hurt and loss and do some good with it? This is how. You remember your resilience. Webster's dictionary defines resilience as the capacity to withstand or recover quickly from difficulties, and the ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape, elasticity. I also know a thing or two about resiliency, and I know when I'm looking at a group of unstoppable, badass, incredible, resilient humans. Yet I also know what we are called when we are outspoken, strong, resilient, determined humans who want to change the world. We're told we're a bit much, or too much, or an iteration of such, right? They don't know what to do with people as resilient as us, as feisty as us, as motivated as us, as educated as, well, you. So I want to end this charge forward into your new chapter by reciting a poem by one of my favorite poets, Lindsay Rush, titled, "She's a Bit Much." A new way to think about being a bit much the next time you're told. You mean like a bonus French fry in the bottom of the bag? Like a champagne shower? Like triple texting good news? Like buying coffee for the person behind you in line? Or did you mean a bit much like an unexpected upgrade to business class? Or theme parties? Or the band pretending to go off stage and then coming back for an unforgettable encore? Perhaps you were referring to that thing of being astonished by a sunset, or how puppies flop around when they learn how to run, or how some people take karaoke way too seriously. Maybe you just meant sprinkles, confetti, balloon drops, witty comebacks, generous tips, fireworks, water slides, serotonin, cherries on top. And the fact that maybe we're put on this planet simply to enjoy ourselves, then yes, I agree, she's a bit much. And aren't we so lucky she's here? Graduates, we are those who have stood in the fire and faced the scary, the terror, the hurt, the pain, and instead of letting the flames destroy us, we became those flames, and I know you will continue to let those flames burn, rage even, in boardrooms and communities and voting booths. I was once a broken, blown-up ballroom dancer in a hospital bed. I'm now a full-time motivational speaker who travels the world inspiring people to live their best lives on the front lines of hard times, from Kenya to Ecuador, Nepal, Iceland, Ireland, Copenhagen, from NASA, Google, and Microsoft, and many other nonprofits and hospitals and corporations. It feels incredible to go from needing constant approval from judges in ballrooms to selflessly helping people through their hardest times. Here's to being a bit much on the side of resilience. Here's to never letting the flame engulf you. Here's to standing at both your starting line and your finish line. Here's to you. Congratulations, 2024 graduating class of Worcester State. You are Boston strong. Congratulations.